What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Sunday League Screamers podcast. I'm your host of today's show, Steve McCutcheon, along with my two co-hosts, Vito Anazelli and Michael Nolan. We have another great show for you, but before that, please take a moment, hit the bell, subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you find your podcasts. Also, follow us on Twitter at the SL Screamers_pod. Welcome back, Mike. How you doing?
Tired. My back hurts. I've been moving. Life's there's a lot going on. A lot of changes. I have to wake up at 4:30 now for games. This fucking sucks.
Welcome to my life.
I hear a lot of complaining. It doesn't sound great.
Well, it was also my own choice. So, yeah. But the weather's good.
Was it really your choice?
Well, that's a different conversation. We're not getting into it.
All right, let's just talk some news then. Let's move on. A lot of big transfers actually this past week. Biggest one, at least that comes to my mind, Casemiro over to Man U for 66 mil. It looks like to be reported. Are you surprised the way Man U is actually like at their current moment, the way the state of the club is right now, that they were able to actually recruit someone of a, he's won 5 Champions League over at Real Madrid?
Honestly, I think it's going to play out to be a good signing for the next 1 to 2 years. But I do think it just stinks of a panic buy for me. The first 2 games obviously were not ideal for Ten Hag and company. And Man U, I guess it's been pretty well documented up in the transfer window thus far. It hasn't been the greatest. They had Emerson come in. They have Malacia come in, who in the game, we'll get to it a little bit, looked really well. But I do think that it's a move that stinks kind of a desperation. I think Casemiro will be a good player. He's obviously proven that, but there's so many, I feel like, just holes in that team and so many issues with mentality of some of those players that, it's not just going to take one player in Casemiro, but it's going to take a true reform at that club. So
yeah, of course, it's not one guy that's going to be able to turn the tide. I mean, otherwise Ronaldo would have done that already. But I'm not surprised that they were able to pull Casemiro out of Real Madrid either. Everyone knows that Camavinga, Valverde, and Tuchumani are the future of that midfield on that team. And getting 60 million pounds up front for Casemiro, plus an additional 10 potentially to come through for a 30-year-old is kind of a no-brainer for a club like Real Madrid that is going to have no problem attracting talent. He's definitely someone that Man United needs, and he's going to have familiar teammates in the likes of Varane and Ronaldo. So it's not too surprising that they were able to do it, knowing Man United's quote-unquote desperation state at this point in terms of transfers. But I do think he's going to offer a lot, and really as a hard-nosed defender is going to slot in pretty seamlessly. I mean, I don't expect too much of a what do we call it? Like a warm-up period right to that life at Manchester United.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
You give me
a couple other transfers.
I was going to say, give me the opportunity. I definitely would take De Jong over Casemiro. Just throwing that out there because that's who they were targeting for that.
Yeah, especially because De Jong would have been 15 million more only. Yeah. But then again, who do you have playing that deep camp?
I think Casemiro is actually a better selection for the
the need,
right?
Yeah,
more of a center, like a true center defensive mid. Like he's going to be better than McTominay, Fred, all those guys. But yeah, no, Mike, I agree. If you're looking just like at a central midfielder and going attacking wise, De Jong obviously would have been the choice. Palmeiri to West Ham. I didn't have a reported fee yet. That one seemed pretty new. I thought I saw it was confirmed though.
I think it was like in the range of like 20 to 25 mil, something like that.
Okay, not a bad move for them. But didn't they just sign somebody too? I thought
they've signed a couple. They've signed a couple people. West Ham. So
well, didn't they get Cornet?
Cornet, didn't they?
They got Cornet.
Well, Cornet, he's not even necessarily a left back, but he can play more or less attacking winger in that system.
Very true. Very true.
And just to confirm, 15 million pounds for Emerson.
15.
Gotcha. So sorry, Casade, and I say his last name, to Chelsea, 17 mil. Morgan Gibbs White to Forest for 33 mil. They continue their buying spree. Matheus Jorgensen to Brentford. He was actually a free agent. Pretty good signing for them, actually. Short up the back line a little bit. Matheus Nunes to Wolves, 55 mil. They were very quiet over the summer so far, and obviously the way they've started the Premier League so far, not really too well. Enough of a move.
They also picked up, I don't know if we covered this the other week, but Guedes as well, from Valencia, the attacking winger, Portuguese, obviously. with Wolves.
Yeah, I think we did
No
cover
shit.
that one.
Surprise.
Shocking.
But I don't know if we covered that or not. But I do think the game against Spurs, well, obviously we'll get to it. Both of them played really well, Guedes in particular. So I do think it's a good signing for what they need, at least up front right now.
Fair, very fair. We got Thilo Kieran to West Ham, 13 mil, another defender. Jesus, the names this week are absolutely phenomenal. Brighton signed somebody for 20 mil. First name is Purvis.
Estupian.
Stupian.
He's actually very good. I've watched him play a little bit at Villarreal, left back. He's going to be a slot in really seamlessly for Cucurella in that system. So that's a great signing, honestly.
And then Inoma Udogi.
He goes by Destiny. He goes by Destiny.
I like Destiny much better. What is this what is this, Armageddon? Wasn't that one of the names of the spaceships? Space shuttles. He was also loaned back to Udinese, so I think he's back there for the full year. Good young signing for them.
Yep.
Any other ones you guys noticed really?
In terms of transfers, nothing else that really stood out over the past week or so.
Just really speculation to my knowledge.
Oh, actually, that recently came out today, but Hudson-Odoi to Leverkusen on loan. So
yeah,
that's pretty much official.
And in more Chelsea news too, trying to sign that young Everton Gordon for, they're saying up to £70 million right now, which is crazy. But he apparently has already communicated to Frankie Lamps and the Everton board that he would like them to accept the move. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's an absurd amount of money for a 21-year-old who hasn't done enough to earn 70 million.
Literally nothing. Proven nothing.
Yeah. But that's just another piece. It seems like a lot of the transfer news in recent weeks has been centered around only a very few clubs in the Premier League.
All right, serious question for you guys. Very serious. If your club was to go and spend 70 million on a guy who's proven nothing, a 21-year-old, and then also potentially buy Harry Maguire for God knows what money, is that allowed to have a one-time switch without repercussions, like to support another club? Like if that happens, like am I allowed to just go support Leeds? I feel like that's fair.
No. You live with it. No,
Mike's a Spurs fan. You're asking the wrong crowd.
Yeah, you live with this, buddy. Like you chose your horse a while ago, pre-Abramovich, as you always like to say, and now you're living with the consequences of post-Abramovich. So deal with it.
My 10-year-old self was cool with Abramovich. He wasn't cool with this kind of crap going on.
Well, look. I mean, I don't want to get too far into this. This is not a Chelsea podcast, obviously, but as a Chelsea supporter, I do have a thought on the matter. Most people were very concerned when Todd Bowley first took over that were Chelsea supporters, right? Whether or not he was going to be able to come in and make an impact because of the lack of transfer activity initially. And then he started spending the cash on whoever he can get his hands on. And it's now starting to seem like he doesn't understand the game enough to understand that he needs to save money and spend it on the players that he needs to be spending it on, not just this free form buying up all this youth talent that sometimes or a lot of times doesn't always pan out. So I think that's the concern if you're a Chelsea supporter at this time, whether or not he's allocating money to the right avenues, not necessarily whether or not he's going to spend the money, because obviously he's going to.
Yeah, I thought he made excellent signings in the beginning of transfer with him with like Koulibaly and some other names, but now it just seems like he's going off a weird
path.
Overpaying. Like we have guys that feel like that dirty. Like, what more do we need from him? That's almost like me. I'm reading that as like high Pulisic is gone.
Yeah.
These funds that are buying Gordon are going to be coming from a future transfer from this guy. So that's at least how I'm seeing it personally. But let's move on to our stars and stripes section and talking about some Americans right there. This week we go over all the United States men's national team players that across the globe had some good standout performances. Second straight week where our number 9s are balling out again.
Yeah, it's been hot for them.
Dude, they're like hot, like very hot.
Yeah.
First up, we got Josh Sargent playing for Norwich in the championship. 86 minutes played, 83% passing, 2 goals, was given the Eden Hazard treatment in this one, being fouled 5 times as well. Man of match performance from him. He was also on the pod last week. We did, not on here, but he was on this segment last week, scoring a goal too. We've brought this conversation up before. We feel like he's played his way out of the national team, but there was a slight chance that if he started off the year the way he is currently starting it, that he might get called in for one last look. What do you guys feel about it?
I think he's the most talented, purely talented 9 that we have, technical ability, just to be frank. If he keeps this form, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't bring him in, especially given the fact we've had our documented issues with the 9 over the past couple cycles, right, with the World Cup qualifying. And even if you don't start him immediately, he obviously has the ability to be a game changer, right? Maybe Ferreira stutters, maybe P-Folk stutters, or they bring P-Folk, but he offers a different dimension that I feel like both of them don't necessarily have. And I think he'd be a great addition as either that second or that third striker. And he was also, again, versatile. He could play on that wing. He's got experience doing that as well, if needed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to quickly go through the next two, because I think they all kind of work hand in hand with each other. I mean, Jordan Pickford played 62 minutes with a goal and assist, 4 out of 10 aerial duels won, and was man of the match this week. And Haji Wright played a full 90 with 2 goals and 1 and converted a penalty. I mean, there's only one guaranteed name that's on the team sheet at this point, knowing Greg's selection process, and that's Jesus, and that's Ferreira. That's it, right? Outside of that, you have to talk about the 2 and 3. And right now, for me, it's still a toss-up between P-Folk and Sargent. Now, honestly, if you're going to pick a number 2, I think you'd be very hard-pressed still not to take P-Folk. He's still putting up numbers. I don't care about 1 week from Josh Sargent. I think P-Folk's a more complete forward than Josh Sargent is, though, especially given what this United States team needs, given the fact that we have these young, pacey wingers. But realistically, midfield forward, I mean, we're considered one of the smaller teams, realistically, in terms of size. And I think P-Folks offers a little bit of a different dimension to that and a little bit more strength than we're going to see Josh Sargent. However, with that being said, I still think you pull both of them together.
Do you think he has better hold-up play than Sargent, though? And
I think he would fit into what we need for the team, the way it's built, than Josh Sargent would. Josh Sargent does have that better hold-up play. He can drop back and pick up the ball, right, and kind of work into that false 9 position. But when you have players like Brendan Aronson and Christian Pulisic on the wings, and even McKennie, who's going to be able to get forward, and players like Del Torre, you have the pace and the trickery that you're going to have the opportunity to beat players on the outside and send balls into the middle that I think Jordan P-Folk is more in tune with converting than Josh Sargent.
So it's actually funny you bring that up too, especially in terms of converting. I looked up his expected goals for the season thus far. It's only 0.69. He has 2 goals plus an assist. So he's creating a lot for Berlin when not being dished out nearly as not being supported, I guess, as enough. So he's being able to take those half chances at the time being currently and then turning them into goals, which is awesome. To my knowledge, I think he actually picked up a little bit of a knock, though. He might be out a week or 2. So that's kind of something that we have to monitor as well. But
yeah, he came out early.
Yeah, he came out pretty early in this one. And then you mentioned with Haji already, I mean, 3 goals in 2 games. He's looking pretty good right now too. The only thing with him, if you're gonna, I truly think P-Folk's probably a lock for this squad at this point. Like Pepe is out of the team. He's played his way out. That was a terrible transfer on his part and his management team over there. But is Haji too similar to P-Folk in terms of size, hold up play, and creativity, or does he offer something different?
My opinion is that they do have very similar play styles. However, I think they differ in a few key strengths. Number one, while they are similar, I think Jordan P-Folk's a little bit better in the air and he's a little bit stronger and he's a little bit more clinical in front of net. However, with that being said, the runs that Haji Wright makes behind the lines are superb. And I think that outplays Josh Sargent and P-Folk. So while they are similar players, he does offer an entirely different dimension in that regard.
Mm-hmm. I feel like he links up very well with our midfielders. He plays kind of like Giroud role a little bit, like for France. Mm-hmm. And if he got to finishing too, I wish he came onto the scene like a year sooner, and we got to see a little bit more of him.
If he was doing this 1 year prior, he would be a lock for the World Cup, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Some honorable mentions. Aronson and Adams had an absolute masterclass against Chelsea in a 3-0 win. Aronson had a goal where he pressured Mendy. Turned it in, his first Premier League goal, because the first one was taken away. Stupid, but he got his first. And Adams looked, dude, he was
all over the place. All over.
He was exactly what you expected him to do in this lead side. Break up play, connect the attack a bit. It was just superb performance.
What's the saying? A fat kid on cake, right? He was everywhere. White on rice.
White on
Never heard of a fat kid on cake? Never heard the fat kid on cake.
Didn't even have a saying, just said fat kid cake. That was it.
That's definitely you guys know that one, right?
That's definitely a saying.
Fat kids do love cake, though, no one. He's making Marsh look like a genius for the both of those signings.
Yes.
So good for him. Miazga had a goal in a 1-1 draw. Cameron Carter-Vickers, 3 clean sheets out of 4 to start the year. He's looking really good. He's even pinging some long balls right now from last couple of games. So I still think he can play his way onto the squad. Hopefully he does. And then all of Borussia Gladbach are pulling for, or at least the admin of the Twitter account is pulling for Joe Scally. He had 3 straight starts this season, and they're calling for him. They want him up there.
Yeah, even today too, because it wasn't written down, but Chris Richards in a Carabao Cup game, he got the start for Palace. I believe his first start. And by all accounts, looking at Palace Twitter and then looking at some of the ratings he had overall, he seemed to have a very solid game for Crystal Palace. So some promising signs for them.
Love to see it. Let's get into a little bit of controversy. Our goalkeeper. It's probably one of the first time in a long time that we've had a competition or even just a question mark. I mean, we had Guzan for a while. Before him, obviously, Tim Howard for God knows how long. Before him, Brad. Not Brad. Who's it? Keller? Is it Brad Keller? I don't remember. No.
Casey
Friedel,
Keller.
Brad Friedel, and then
Casey
Casey
Keller.
Friedel, yeah.
Yeah. So we've always had someone solid in net, and it really wasn't too much of a question, I would say. It was kind of like they came to the net, and the next guy was stepping up. So this is the first time we've had like a true competition. Turner not playing at Arsenal right now, but when he made that signing, we all knew that was going to happen. He was coming to a backup role. Stefan leaves on loan from Man City, goes down division to Middlesbrough, and is playing poorly. What do you think that does? Is there an advantage either side? One's getting playing time, not playing well. One's not getting playing time at all. It almost feels like Turner is in the lead now at that point, because I feel like Stefan's playing his way out of it.
I think Turner has been in the lead, and I think he's a lock, right? We talked about it. We know that we're going to want to see players in form going to the World Cup, but when neither person is playing, you're sticking with the tried and true, the tested, right? Turner's played out of his mind during the Gold Cup and during qualifiers and things of that nature. And until you see differently from another keeper, I don't care that he's not playing. He has to be the number one starter, because no one else is getting minutes and no one else is putting in performances that are able to usurp Turner's past performances. As horrible that is to say, you still want to see, someone in net at all times. But until that happens, you have to stick with what you know. And that right now, that's Turner. That last qualifier, I believe it's September, that the United States plays Japan in Germany. I fully expect Turner to be the starter, and I think that's going to be a clear indication that he's the number one going to that first match at Qatar.
Yeah, I don't see any world in which Matt Turner isn't the starter as of today. I think it's good on Stefan, and I'm glad he made the move to Burrow, and I think it was the right move to make. But if he's playing this poorly, and again, there's time on his side, he could change that, right? And maybe Burrow go on a bunch of runs and he hits a bunch of clean sheets. But until that happens, there is no indication that it should be anybody else but Matt Turner.
Agreed.
Okay. And then last thing I want to cover regarding the U.S., we have 2 kind of little transfer sagas going on. One with Christian Pulisic, another top player in Serginho Dest, where to my knowledge, Xavi basically came out and said, hey, bud, you're not playing. If you want World Cup time, go, like literally just go, and basically kicking him out. Thoughts on this, where they should land, should they leave, all that kind of stuff.
Pulisic, I mean, I know the rumors came out that Man U were interested in him. I know there was rumors about Newcastle. Honestly, I think Newcastle will be a great landing spot. Man U, I just don't want him to be in that dressing room, to be frank. Like we talked about, I think it's a shit show. I think the mentality is super fragile, and that's not something I feel like most players would want to be around. I think at Newcastle, would be joining, not to overshadow the sports washing, but he'd be joining an exciting project under an exciting manager playing attacking football. He'd probably be guaranteed starts realistically in that team, opposite of Alan St. Maximin. So I think that's the logical choice, to stay in the Prem and do that and get really solid minutes from Pulisic's perspective, if he's not going abroad.
Yeah, agreed. But you also have to think about it like he needs to be going into a side where not only is he going to get minutes, but he's going to be playing in his preferred position. And for me, that's either on the left wing or he needs to be in that 10 role behind the striker, right? And I don't think he's going to get that, especially on the left wing at Newcastle per se. Agreed. If he's going to choose one of the two, it needs to be Newcastle United over Manchester United, because he's not going to get a look in over Rashford and Martial to start. And Jadon Sancho, it's just not going to happen. And he needs the minutes. He needs to reestablish himself and his consistency, because that's clearly where the issue is at this point. We know what he can do. It's the fact that if he's going to do it week in, week out, which he obviously hasn't, which is bringing this move on. Reports are that he's super flustered at Chelsea, and he doesn't like Tuchel and his tactics.
As he should be right now.
Yeah, he should be. He shouldn't be happy with it. I'd be disappointed if he was content with his position at the moment. So I would still say expect him to move, and I don't expect Dest to move though at this stage.
I would like Dest to move. On that note, I would like him to get out of Barcelona. And I saw a rumor today, it kind of intrigued me, that Barcelona was open to like a swap deal, and they got a rumor with Meunier, or whatever the fuck his name is, Thomas Meunier. Meunier, yeah. They're right back for whatever reason they want to target him, and then send Dest to beat Borussia Dortmund. In my mind, that's a great move for him. I know there was also talks about Dest to Man U, coincidentally. That one I'm like 50-50 on, only because he has played under Ten Hag, and Ten Hag would know how to get the absolute best out of him. And you would assume if he's bringing him in, he's probably going to be starting for Man U in that case. So
I feel that. Let's talk recaps. We had a pretty eventful week or weekend this past Premier League. First up, Mike, you want to take it away for us?
Yeah, it was a nice little 1-0 Spurs win over Wolves. And it definitely was a tale of the two halves, to say the least. The first half, just kind of recapping, Wolves honestly looked much the better team, had a bunch of great opportunities and chances that honestly they should have taken, and they should have been up probably at least 1, if not 2-0 by that halftime point. But when you're playing teams in that top 6, obviously, if you're not capitalizing, and this goes for any team, but if you're not capitalizing on those opportunities, more than likely it's going to come back to fucking bite you. And it did, when Perisic flicked on a header from a corner right to Kane at the back post, who then became the all-time club leading goal scorer for a single club, passing Sergio Aguero, 185 goals. So
accomplishment.
It's an amazing accomplishment for a one-season wonder.
Never gonna let that go.
But
that's ingrained in Tottenham history now.
But that being said, it's not like Spurs also had the greatest, I guess, second half. They did have opportunities beyond that. Wolves did still have a few as well, and it easily could have been tied, but unlucky a little bit for Wolves. You can see, like we mentioned, the signings, Nunes, Goncalves, Guedes, they looked really lively and good, and Pedro Neto as well. I'm a little scared for Wolves as a team and where they're going in terms of their trend and what they've been kind of putting out in terms of results. But I think there are building blocks there, at least for them as a team, to continuously move forward and at least kind of escape. I don't think they're in the relegation zone just yet, but they're near it, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a very similar start to what they had last year, right? They had 3 straight 1-0 losses. This year, something relatively close to being similar. And then they're one safe penalty away from, again, starting out with 3 straight losses. So slow starters to a Premier League season, maybe. I don't want to say I'm not concerned, because obviously you want to start off much better, but they've been through this already. They came out relatively fine. I think they were top half of the table last year, right? So
yeah,
I wouldn't press the panic button, but I'd be like, kind of like, hey, let's
But this was their issue also that we talked about in the beginning of the season, where it's like they were living and dying by that 1-0 score line, and they needed somebody other than Raul Jimenez to step up and score goals. And unfortunately, you're not seeing that right now with them. So
yeah, poor guys. Next up, Palace 3, Villa 1. Vieira's men back on track after a tough opening 2 games. It feels like they're better than the teams around them and below them, and I feel like this year they're gonna make that step up to where they're capturing those 3 points, but they don't have enough to really contend with those top guys for the European spots. And on the other hand, Gerrard has a losing record for Villa right now. Any concern over his managerial spot?
I think it's too soon to consider that. Granted, it's going to be a thought if these results continue to happen. He has a lot of talent in that squad that is just not producing at the moment. To go up inside 5 minutes from Ollie Watkins scoring, which is exactly what you need, right, from your star striker there. Only to fall back to level footing, 2 minutes later with Wilfred Zaha strike. It's definitely a worrying concern there. But I think he will right the ship. I think he's had a tough start to the season so far, and there's just starting to get in tune and click again. But it definitely is worrying considering that he had half of last year in order to kind of understand his squad and where they need to be. But like Mike said, it kind of mirrors the way I feel about Wolves as well. Slow start, it's nothing they can't handle. They have the talent in the squad. I think they'll be fine in the long run, and I don't expect them to be pushing for the top 6, top 7, top 8 spots as it is. So we just have to keep an eye on it and see if he's able to right the ship over the coming weeks.
Yeah, 2 straight summers where they spent some serious money, and we feel like they should have.
They're underperforming.
They should be progressing much farther.
Definitely underperforming.
They're underperforming for sure. I wouldn't say you should worry about Gerrard as a coach or manager his position at least until around the Christmas timeframe, or probably after that World Cup. And if it's still sour after the World Cup, then. Or actually, maybe even before it, like if it's really that bad, that might not be a bad time to pull the plug if it's really that bad. So, but
understandable.
But yeah, Palace though, man, they look good. They always look good.
Love them.
Isaiah in particular, great player.
Yeah. Moving on, we had Everton 1, Forest 1. Everton picked up their first point of the season. Nottingham, still finding a way to get results early on in the season. This could be their way. They could pull a Brentford, potentially. Get as many in the beginning of the year, and then just ride that out. That's kind of the feel I'm getting for them. Maybe all these signings are going to matter to some points. My big concern here is Everton, right? We said they were going to have to pull up 3 points against the teams around them in the table where we think they're going to be around come the end of the season, and clearly not doing that to start off yet. And definitely have some concerns for them.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned, Dominic DCL, he's injured now for a little bit. He's out. Who did they put up in that game? Solomon Rodon, whatever his name is. The dude's not a Premier League striker. He's not quality in that sense. Until they have somebody to replicate DCL without the injuries or replicate Richarlison, they're just relying on Anthony Gordon and Alex Iwobi and Damari Gray. And they got lucky with that over-the-top ball by Pickford, which was beautiful touch, beautiful goal, but that's just not going to be the case for every game. So I think
it's basically a 90-minute winner, right? Or I'm sorry, not winner.
Tie.
It's a draw, right?
They were riding their luck right there.
Yeah, and it's going to be incredibly crucial for both of these teams to pick up points in their coming matches because Everton have Brentford and Leeds next, both away from home. But then they have to run into Liverpool, Arsenal, West Ham, followed away by a trip to Southampton, and then followed by Manchester United, Tottenham, and Newcastle. So we know the strength of the Premier League. You can look at any of these teams and say that there's going to be a hard lineup to come ahead, but it's going to be really crucial for them to pick up some big points against Brentford and Leeds this week before they head into the big boys.
Yeah, I mean, basically took them 270 minutes to score. They had an own goal scored for them last week, courtesy of Lucas Digne.
Yeah.
But basically took them 270 minutes to score their first goal of the Premier League season.
Yeah.
It's definitely a little concerning. Moving on, Fulham 3, Brentford 2, courtesy of a Mitrovic 90th minute winner. Heartbreak for Brentford in this one. Great game though to watch. A lot of excitement. Fulham looking good. They're not looking bad at all.
I picked them as my dark horse to finish up and finish somewhere decently. Mitrovic is coming good. I mean, there's a reason he scored 42 goals or something ridiculous last year, something like absurd.
Yeah, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but yeah, it was ridiculous amount. We said he'd pretty much bring them as far as they can go, and he's doing a pretty good job of it so far. I mean, if he doesn't have that penalty save last week against Wolves, they have 7 points from their opening 3 games. Drew with Liverpool, win against Wolves potentially, and then Brentford too. Like that would have been a hell of a start. I mean, it still is right now, but
yeah, definitely. But I don't want to talk only about Fulham because Brentford put in a really good match there as well. I mean, they went 2-0 down within the first 20 minutes. I mean, they were 1-0 down within the first minute, to be honest with you. So, for them to claw back after 2-0 down in 20 to bring it back 2-2, only to have their hearts broken in the 90th minute, away from home to a newly promoted side where Mitrovic, is going to be on the ball and try to get, and eventually it netted the winner, is a really good response from them at least. So that's encouraging to see. Last year, if it wasn't for the first 8, 9, 10 games, whatever it was, you would expect Brentford to go down 2-0 and stay 2-0 down. So I'm happy to see the fight in that side. For me, this was probably one of the games of the week, honestly.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown from them though too. Obviously, coming off the back of the Man U result, but also at the
Yeah.
same time, don't forget the opening match of the year. They went down 2-0 against Leicester too and had to fight back. So
Yep.
they got to stop putting themselves in these kind of holes because over the course of a long
You don't want to
season,
get used to it.
yeah, that's gonna take its toll, and you're gonna start dropping some points. Another concerning team that we have: Leicester 1, Southampton 2. Che Adams scores in the 84th minute to lock up all 3 points for the visitors. Listen, I'm still on my Leicester is the Everton of last season. I don't know. I think they have a little too much talent to get relegated, but I see them being down near the bottom for a very long time. And nothing they do right now is changing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, second to bottom if it wasn't for West Ham's goal differential right now. Yeah, it's worrying. They're definitely in a tough predicament. That we've talked about it more than enough. I don't think we need to harp on it, but things have to change. They need to change fast. Unfortunately for Leicester, they haven't, necessarily faced the easiest teams, although you would have expected they would have gotten a result here against Southampton. But Southampton, to their credit, have been playing magnificently to start the season. And going to Chelsea and then playing Manchester United is not looking good for the opening 5 games for Leicester.
No, it's definitely not.
No, it's rough, and it makes you wonder how much time does Rodgers get with this team? And like I was referring to, maybe if it's that bad, do they pull the plug before the World Cup and give their players an opportunity to work with a new coach before then to help salvage the season? Because if they're still in this bottom half of the table, if they're still below that number 15, I think you pull the plug, honestly, on Rodgers. You give someone an opportunity to step in. Not to say, again, we're super early in the season, anything could happen, but I mean, it's not obviously positive signs here.
Yeah, definitely.
That might be one of the best. I'm sorry, Vito, you go.
No, go for it.
No, I'm gonna say that come the World Cup, as much as like we kind of hate that it's in the winter and breaking up the season, that might be a really good time for teams floundering to really kind of reconstruct everything and get solid again. So that might come at the perfect time for some teams like a Leicester, like an Everton, ones that need to change and need to change quick.
Yeah.
So heading over to, I think it was the last game, right? This was the Saturday one.
Yeah.
Bournemouth Arsenal. Yeah, the prime time. Bournemouth 0, Arsenal 3. Arsenal in first place. Are they truly cruising though? You have an away win over Bournemouth, who did not look up to this game whatsoever.
They beat Leicester.
Crystal Palace. That was relatively, Crystal Palace had their chances in there. And who was their other game? I drew
Leicester. They beat Leicester 4-2.
They beat Leicester.
I don't know. I would like to say yes, they're cruising, but I mean, look at the way that Bournemouth's been playing, and look at the way Leicester's been playing, and I mean that result over Palace was good, but Palace could have had opportunities to nick a draw from that game, if not the win as well. So I mean, incredible goals in that game. That Saliba hit was unbelievable in the top corner.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they deserve all 3 points. I don't want to take anything away from that, and I'm saying like along those lines, but. They're only team at 9 points. I just want to be cautious of it before, Sergio Aguero, this was their dark horse for the title. So I don't know.
I just hope they've been working out and they're ready to hold the weight of the world on that title race they have coming now. It's theirs to lose, baby. It is theirs to lose.
Well,
yeah.
If you want to get an idea of how unbelievably of a letdown that game was for Bournemouth. Bournemouth, the first home side not to have a shot or a touch in the opposition box in the first half of a Premier League match since Bournemouth against Manchester City in 2019.
Yeesh.
So, I mean, you're talking about 3 years since that's happened, and they were the last one to do it. So, I mean, all signs point to that being one of the worst halves of football a Premier League side's put together in a very long time.
Yeah,
it didn't help their causes to try to get any points from that match. That way.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it too, from at least vice versa, first 3 games last season for Arsenal to now, to polar opposite. So you have to at least give credit in that sense to Arteta and the coaching staff. So
0 points last year, 9 this year out of the first 3. So well done there, Michael. Good analysis.
Yeah.
Heading over to Sunday matches, probably the biggest upset of the week, I would say. Leeds 3-0 over Chelsea.
Yeah, probably.
I know the Man U went over. That is still pretty big too. Is Leeds the fittest team on the planet? Like, bro, on FIFA. If you press for 90 minutes, your team gets tired. Your stamina's down. Like, I'm just saying, like, it ain't possible. Leeds is saying it's possible.
Leeds are the dark horse. Put your stock in Leeds. This is without a Patrick Bamford in that side. Absolutely demolished Chelsea. They dominated the vast majority of that game, in my opinion. Obviously,
Chelsea's best chance was within 30 seconds of the match, and that was it. And then Leeds escaped and they took over.
Yeah, so good on Leeds. I mean, this is everything you wanted from this side. They went out and got players with that high energy. They went out and got players with the work rate and the ability to fill the gaps in which we all knew Leeds desperately needed filled in that back line, both in Tyler Adams and the midfield. And they're doing it superbly. Jesse Marsch has them running circles around most teams right now. And even in games where they're not coming out with all 3 points, they're putting in solid performances. With that being said, that was the Chelsea side that showed up first week as well, with the exception of, obviously against Spurs. So that was a really interesting match, but I think it's cemented Leeds in a lot of people's minds that, this team could do it. They can push for those European spots. The opportunity is there.
I think European spots are a stretch.
You don't think they can get 8th place?
No, absolutely not. No,
really?
Absolutely not.
I have them making their way up the table. I think they can do it this year.
Absolutely not.
I think they're a top half team that is just shy of it. I think they kind of collapsed right towards the end. They really don't have the experience, and that's like, I don't know if they have the depth. You got to understand, to play that style for 38 games over the course of a year is almost impossible. You have to have serious depth. If any injuries incur, it's just not obtainable, I don't think. But regardless, yes, I think they're top half table. I agree with you there, Vito. Pushing for Europe, I think they give it a damn good shot. I don't know if they get there. But all the teams around them, really, like we've mentioned previously, haven't really done much to really convince us otherwise of why they should deserve that spot anyway. So, yeah, it's possible. I think it is possible.
Yep.
Likely? No. Possible? Yes.
With that being said, I want to switch gears to Chelsea side real quick because I have an interesting question for you guys.
Poop City.
Edouard Mendy, at the age that he's at with his contract where it's at, do you think Chelsea holds off on giving him a new contract, given the performances that he's been putting in recently? He is incredibly suspect with his feet, playing out of the back, and has been caught more times than not and has bailed himself out a couple of times as well. Otherwise, it'd be a bit of a darker picture. Where do you think Chelsea stands with that goalkeeper position, knowing that they signed Slonina from the Chicago Fire this year as well?
I was going to say there's a reason they signed Slonina, and there's a big reason because of that. Like you said, Mendy's been caught more times than one in the back, and that's not the first time we've seen it. And he is shaky at best with his feet. Kepa's on his way out. They're revamping that position. Probably keep him for another year, maybe 2. I don't know what's left on his contract. Do you know?
I think a year or 2 tops.
Let's say it's 2 years. You probably wait till you let him go the rest of this year. You either extend him another, or you sell him in the summer and get some type of value for him. Listen, he's filled in admirably for us. I mean, Champions League, everything. But, yeah, young. Unfortunately, youth is the way to go.
Youth wins out, yeah.
Before we move on from that Chelsea Leeds game, there's just one thing I wanted to highlight too.
Do not have to bring it up.
Immaculate form from Jesse Marsch with the Gronk spike with the water bottle.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Immaculate form. I mean, he was obviously watching his tape because unbelievable spike into the ground, twisted the cap, full torque extension. Unbelievable.
Did the water bottle make it? Do we know?
I think he purposely twisted it so that way it wouldn't explode in somebody's face because he spiked the crap out of it. He really let it rip.
That's pro right there. That's professional water bottle spiker. All right, heading over to the West Ham game. West Ham 0, Brighton 2. West Ham is the last pointless team in the Premier League. They sit at the bottom of the table right now.
No goals.
What's the concern level?
They got no goals.
Yeah, that isn't good. Maybe now where you want to be.
Glad you pointed out the obvious.
They're Arsenal from last year, so you never know.
Very true. Very true. But in West Ham, we've said before, right? They are getting older. We feel like they haven't retooled necessarily the right way. And each of the last 2 years where they had chances to really make pushes for Champions League and Europa League, they've collapsed. Or they just did they have their shot and it just passed them now at this point? That's what it's kind of feeling like to me. Like they had it and then now they have to go back into retool mode.
A little bit.
Yeah, I think they fucked up by not signing Lingard permanently when they had the opportunity. I think that was that key passing through the doors moment where if they were able to pull that off, we could easily be talking about West Ham now on a more consistent basis, pushing for like that, like top 6 like spot realistically. But you're riding on the coattails of Bowen, an aging Antonio, Scamacca, who's not prem proven just yet, but he's a great player. I mean, they obviously revamped a bunch with a bunch of signings, but I'm just not sure.
Let me ask you this in terms of West Ham, right? If you're West Ham's board right now, I know it's only 3 games in this season. It's way too early to be making all these predictions, but that's what we do, right? Are you kicking yourself in the ass right now for not taking 120 million from Declan Rice, knowing you probably are finishing outside of the top 6 and that price tag's now maybe 70 or 60?
I don't think the price tag went down that far, but it definitely went down.
By the end of the year, could it be? Without Champions League football?
There's an opportunity
Or
cost
Europe.
involved in that, right? You have like obviously what just happened where we think it's going down. When you can pull an ungodly amount of money like that, and you have an aging squad, one young player really can't, especially from a center defensive mid position, you know what I'm saying, like do anything enough to really push them towards like where they want to be. You got to look at taking on 120 mil, maybe selling off some older players, bringing in another squad, have a I'm not saying a down year, you know, a rebuild year, still top 10, and then taking that money really truly investing back in.
Who knows? Maybe someone will come back in for him at this point.
Listen, yeah, it's easy it's easy to Monday morning quarterback that decision, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But saying no to 120 mil for one player is very difficult to do, especially not for one that's going to provide you with 25 goals in a season.
Yeah.
So, heading over to probably the game of the week, I would say, pretty much by a long shot here. Newcastle 3, Man City 3. We had bangers of goals. What do you guys take away from this game more? Man City showing a chink in the armor, like a weakness, or Newcastle showing, hey, we're ready to play with the big boys. We're here.
Definitely not Newcastle saying they're ready to play with the big boys. We're here. I still think they have a little bit ways to go until they're at that level. I think if anything, this is more little brother trying to beat up on big brother with oil money.
Little brother got some damn good right hooks in then.
Little brother had some swings, but I honestly think like this has been the blueprint to play City for the longest time. And if teams have been patient, because if you go head to head and toe to toe with them, they're gonna burn you. They're too much. They have too much quality. So you have to sit and counter. And when you have players like Saint Maximin who can do that and just drive and terrify opponents, he had Kyle Walker spinning in circles. He had John Stones literally just totally lost in no man's land. Right? When you have players who can do that, that's when you burn City. It's unfortunate they couldn't hold the lead, obviously, but I don't think they're at that point yet. To answer your question, Steve.
Yeah, and that goal by Callum Wilson was just absolutely world class. That touch into his path and outside the boot to the far post, running across his body was unbelievable. But I'm with Mike. Look,
free kick too.
Yeah. Oh shit, that was unbelievable. Look, most teams are going to sit in a low block against Manchester City and try to absorb pressure and hit him on the counter. Right, that's the game plan against Manchester City. It doesn't work for most teams because for one simple fact is most teams don't break out of that low block into a counteroffensive quickly enough to break City apart. The City press usually pulls the ball back. Newcastle are built to be able to do that with the speed of Alan St. Maximin and Callum Wilson up front, right? They have that attacking threat going forward, and that's what you need if you're going to play against City, and they executed it perfectly. They just took every other game plan that all these other sides try to execute and just realized that they have the personnel to do it. So I think it's neither a blip on Manchester City or to go too far out ahead in Newcastle United, just too early. But if I have to give credit to one side, it's without a doubt Newcastle going up 3-1. Unfortunately, blowing the lead, but it still took 2 world-class goals to get them in that position, and you can't bank on world-class goals going week in, week out, you know?
Yeah, and also a couple world-class passes, too, to come back from City. Like the De Bruyne pass, the Silva pass to Gundogan in the beginning for the first goal. I mean, there was
Holland had a chance to seal it too at the end there.
Yeah, there were some unbelievable just goals in that game for multiple reasons. Yeah. But out of curiosity too, speaking of Trippier, what were you guys' opinions on his foul on De Bruyne on the breakaway where he took him out, initially ruled a red card, overturned to a yellow?
I like the decision.
It's the right call.
I also like how we went back and saw it and like we evaluated it, and I think they made the right call.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, I'm glad we can go back and revert a red card. We can't go and check one for hair pulling, but the time's passed.
Yeah, look, I mean, he went in a little high. That's you're not gonna argue that, but he didn't go in there maliciously. He didn't go there with force, and you can tell he got his leg across De Bruyne's body. He didn't go in with his studs at his kneecap. So I think from that perspective, a yellow was the right call. I understand why it came through as a red to begin with, but I think the reversal was maybe something VAR did right for once.
Yeah, you don't want to ruin a great game like that. Come on now. Last game of the weekend, or I guess kind of on a weekday, Monday nighter. Man U 2, Liverpool 1. Honestly, going into this game, it felt as if Man U had the weight of the world completely on their shoulders. Some of their players even as well, and they couldn't if they walked out with no wins in 3 matches. Is it just riots? They had to win this game. It was actually written on the stone. We should have called this one.
I don't know, man. I got to be honest. As big of a game this is for Manchester United, it was. I think people underplayed how significant it was for Liverpool too. I think this match was equally as big for both of these sides, knowing that Liverpool, obviously in different scenarios, right? Liverpool needs to make up ground on City because going down the way they have this early on is incredibly detrimental. But going away to Old Trafford is never easy. I still didn't believe Manchester United could do it. I don't care. I didn't think they'd be able to pull that off, and they pulled it off resoundingly. That Jadon Sancho goal to open the scoring, where he wrong-footed Alisson and sat down. I mean, Virgil got caught out too. Was just that was Borussia Dortmund, Jadon Sancho. That's what they paid the money for. That's what you need to see week in, week out. So we always know the potential's there. They just reminded me of preseason, the way they looked rather than the first 2 games of the season. So let's hope that it's a spark to that squad at this point.
Yeah, I was specifically happy for Rashford. Honestly, I know he gets a lot of shit for a lot of different reasons by the Manchester United fans, but for him, I felt like that goal was just a huge weight lifted off his shoulders, and hopefully it brings the best out of him just from a pure footballing perspective, because when he's on, he's so much fun to watch as well. And he looked obviously like a different player in that game, in that second half after he scored that goal.
And for those who don't know, that's his first goal in 17 matches and his first in the Premier League since January of this year, to put that into context a little bit.
Yeah, so that was a big goal for him. But I mean, to dive into Liverpool though, you're starting, and I understand there are injuries and whatnot, but a Milner, Henderson, Elliott midfield, a Milner, Henderson pivot. I mean, you're asking for it. I'm sorry. You're asking to kind of get run over in that midfield. So when that happens, Klopp can make all the excuses he wants, but they didn't invest properly when they had the opportunity to replace Wijnaldum. They only kept Thiago. They never really brought in somebody with that technical ability to beat a press and kind of make something happen creatively moving forward, because it's not going to be Henderson or Milner. Milner's body's too old at this point. Henderson doesn't have a creative bone in his fucking body. So, I mean, what do you expect at that point?
Yeah. Let me ask you guys, do you think majority of the issues right now lie at the back for Liverpool? This is a side that only conceded 26 goals in the entirety of last year, and have shipped in 5 in their opening 3 matches this year, including matches against a floundering Manchester United side up until this point, Crystal Palace, and Fulham to start the season, right? Newly promoted side. Mm-hmm. This back line for Liverpool looks extremely suspect. Last year, Liverpool played a lot of 1-0 games, or a lot of close match games where they were able to squeak out a point towards the latter half of the matches. And it doesn't look like that's going to be a possibility right now, the way things stand at the moment, the way it's going, because they're getting opened up way too easily by one ball or one player.
Not having Konate right now obviously hurt them right in that game. That was big. I also think the way Liverpool play, just inherently, the way they push up their fullbacks, Robertson has the ability and the pace to get back, and he's a decent one-on-one defender. Trent, I'm sorry, I love him as an attacking fullback. He's almost like a Marcos Alonso to me, where he can just whip in balls day in, day out. He's got a banger of a foot on him, right? But put him in a one-on-one scenario defending, and you're taking your chances, realistically. And more teams, I think you're going to see start exploiting that. And until Liverpool find a way to cope with that, I think they're going to get exposed on that flank way too often.
How many times did Van Dijk or Joe Gomez or Konaté last season bail the wingbacks out for being so far up the pitch, and they're able to handle an attacker or two? But that's obviously not the case, because now it seems like a couple of these goals that are going right through the middle. Van Dijk's getting beat for pace. I mean, I think they'll turn it around. There's too much talent in that back line not to, but it's a matter of when they're going to do it at this point.
Agreed. I just feel like there's a massive quality difference between Man City and Liverpool, though.
Yeah. Which I didn't see at the beginning.
Over. It's a long way to go, but in my eyes, I don't see how Liverpool overtakes City.
No, not at this
I don't think it's possible.
Time. Not at this time. They're already at what, 2 points? They're at 2 fucking points through 3 games.
Yep.
Right. City's at 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Arsenal's leading the table at 9. Only undefeated team.
I know it's 5 points. It's still 3 games through the season, but that's huge in the terms of the
like. How many are you banking on City losing? 2,
Yeah.
3 at most.
Exactly.
And you're going to be the ones that beat them.
Yes, they have to beat them twice if they want any chance.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, if this gap gets any bigger, I don't be that guy, but it's over. So, any out of curiosity, any hesitation to say their top 4 chances are in jeopardy, or you think that's pretty much locked? Like
I think it's locked for top 4, because they were missing a couple key players like Darwin and who else wasn't playing?
I don't know that it's locked.
Because at this point, you're saying City, Arsenal, Tottenham are your top 3. Do you think Liverpool is fighting for that 4th?
No.
I don't know if they're necessarily fighting. Look, it's entirely possible that Liverpool goes on a
20-game
tear.
Right.
It's also entirely possible that these are issues that are starting to become very prevalent with age, given the age of these players. Like, to Mike's point, the fullbacks aren't great defenders. Van Dijk's like 30-something years old at this point. And Konaté is obviously young, and he has the ability to, but Milner's getting up there. Jordan Henderson's getting up there. You have the pace and the youth in the front lines, but that's not going to help you where their problems are, and that's in the back line. They can score a goal. They still picked one back against United. They still put 2 in against Fulham. The back line's obviously the issue, and it's not looking good. So if this goes if we're still talking about this in 4 weeks, then yes, they're fighting for 4th place, because Tottenham's not going to drop those points and Arsenal's not going to drop those points. Never thought I would have said that in the quantity as we get to that point in the season,
Fair enough. Let's head over to the match previews for match week. Was he on 4? Yeah, around 4 now.
Yeah.
Already lost in sauce on that one. First one up, Southampton versus Manchester United on Saturday. Do we fall for the Man U hype, or do I go? Or I don't know. I'm feeling a draw on this one.
It's a classic trap game, right?
Yeah,
classic trap. Man U here.
Southampton's playing very, very well. Like, I'm very surprised at their start to the season, and let's go with draw.
I'm going to take a Man U win. I do think I'll fall into
taking
that
the
trap.
odds.
I'll take the trap. I think they're riding the confidence boost pretty high.
I'm going to go draw, but I'm very close to taking a Southampton win. I'm going to have to think upon that one. Moving on, Chelsea versus Leicester. God, they both look terrible.
But who looks less terrible?
Give me Chelsea because they're at home. And I'm saying that with the least bit of confidence I think I've ever had.
Yeah, I was going back and forth between a Chelsea victory and a draw, but ultimately I think Tuchel's going to bounce them back into shape. He's going to change things up. Obviously, the formation, everything's got to move around with Koulibaly having the red card. Going to be a little bit of a different back line, but I would expect Chelsea to nick the points, even if it's just by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah,
they possibly put up their worst performance of the season in game number 3. I think there's too much character in that locker room to let that happen again.
Yeah,
especially.
I think Chelsea win. Maybe even after the game, you see Fofana switch shirts mid-game, or even mid-game, he switches shirts.
He's going to take Thiago Silva's shirt and just start wearing it. Oh my God.
It's like, hey, Wes, actually, you got to go over there. That blue color now.
Yeah,
Moving on, Brentford hosting Everton. Give me Brentford W here. I think they bounce back. They go up early, and they don't let Everton in this game at all.
I would agree. Brentford W. I think their fight over the past couple games versus Man U, versus Arsenal, not Arsenal, excuse me, versus Fulham, even though they lost. I think there's a lot of character in that. And with Everton, like I mentioned, Gordon's a question mark. Solomon Rodon up top. I just don't trust what they have to put out there to score goals. So I'll take
It
Everton.
seems like Everton's like a less dramatic Manchester United right now in terms of like where the stability of the club is. One of the interesting matches of probably the weekend here, Brighton hosting Leeds. God, this one's that is a whew.
I'm going to take Leeds here. I'm going to be hard pressed
want
to
to
not
so
take
bad.
them after that performance last week and the way I rate their squad at the moment. I think they're going to have enough to overcome Brighton. They've obviously been playing incredibly well. Graham Potter's an absolute magician. I'm going to start calling him Dumbledore or some shit, but I think Leeds and Jesse Marsh are going to handle it.
I think Brighton can slow Leeds down and nick a 1-0 win. They play that kind of style where they could just settle the game. I don't want to say no to Leeds though. Give me Brighton win. Fuck, I don't like
Brighton
it.
win.
Steve, you and I are on the same thought path here. I'm not betting against Potter right now. I think Graham Potter has got the Brighton team playing very, very well. I watched that game that they played against West Ham, even on the weekend. They were playing liquid football.
All right, this dude is definitely Dumbledore if his first last name is Potter, okay? I didn't even think about that originally. That is beautiful.
You're a wizard, Graham.
You're a wizard, Graham.
You're a wizard, Graham.
If I'm the Brighton supporters, I'm showing up head to toe in like Harry Potter here.
I want lightning bolts on everyone's foreheads.
Everyone's forehead.
Honestly, he would fit the bill pretty well.
Yeah.
He would. But I do think Brighton just tactically, I think Potter is a little bit better of a coach, honestly, than Jesse Marsh. And I say that with the heaviest of hearts. And I do think that's ultimately what really puts them ahead, not necessarily the press, but they're able to break it down pretty easily. To your point, Steve.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be easily done. I just think he knows exactly how to counter what Jesse Marsh and Leeds is going to throw at them. That's the only thing about it. Liverpool hosting Bournemouth. I mean, listen, if they're dropping points here, so we all on par here for Liverpool dub after watching Bournemouth net get a shot in the 18 in the first half.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Man City hosting Palace. Palace has pulled off some interesting results against Man City over the years, so I don't want to throw it out of there, but I also don't want to catch me off the back of not a win at the same time.
Yeah, typically those teams get obliterated. And I don't want to say Palace will get obliterated, but I don't think
they have a rough opening schedule.
They have an incredibly difficult schedule.
Arsenal, City. Who else have they played?
Palace.
Yeah,
they played Liverpool, Arsenal. Now
it was Liverpool, right? Okay, I thought.
Yeah. And their opening 4 games, they played the top 3 teams in the league,
and they're still putting up results.
Yeah, they're still putting up results. Yes, and at the very minimum, incredible performances given the quality of the opposition.
Yeah,
Vieira.
He's doing a great job.
I do think City overpower them in this game, but I think you'll obviously see a hell of a fight from Palace throughout it. So it'll be a great game.
This reminds me of like a 3-1 game where Palace missed a few early opportunities to help get ahead.
Who knows? It could be that same blueprint where they have Eze, they have Zaha, they have speedy people who like to dribble, and this could be a great opportunity to literally just mimic that blueprint that Newcastle had and actually execute on it with debatably a little bit better of a defense, maybe with Gahey, but
well, put in perspective, unbeaten in the last 2 matches. The last 2 times they played in the league, but a 0-0 draw and a 2-0 win for Palace. Last year, that is.
Yeah, and if you go like a year or 2 back, you have that Towson banger from outside.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah, that's a little bit back there. That's 2018.
That's farther.
Was it that far?
Yeah, it was that far.
City's pretty much dominated them ever since that.
That one still stands out. Let's put it that way. That was incredible.
Look, I'm still going to take a City win. They're going to bounce back for that Newcastle game. They're going to understand the importance of that, and it's at the Etihad. It's hard to bet against the best team in arguably the world at this point.
Palace has no fear though. Oh, if City was not coming off a draw just now, I would probably give this one that. But I don't know. I just don't feel like they can drop points in back-to-back games. It feels like it's illegal.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have Arsenal hosting Fulham. Gave me this game preseason, I would tell you Arsenal dub, no problem, 3-0. Let's move on. Is there a
Fulham
draw?
look
good. Fulham look good, man.
I'm taking a draw.
I think Arsenal dropped their points finally here. Yeah, I'm with Vito. I'm gonna take a draw as well.
I really want to be different, but I had it in my head to rip a draw as well.
What a follower.
Yeah, freaking
God
disgraceful.
damn.
You know what?
At least
Fine.
be
Like
what?
lion,
Fine.
not
Fuck it.
sheep.
It's
Remember that.
it's a London derby, right? So fuck it. Let's say Fulham for the win. Mark it
I was
I was about to
down
say,
right
be
here.
a
All right,
real
it's either
Spurs
one that
fan
way, all right.
and do it.
Fulham for
Yeah,
the fucking
come on
win.
now.
Mitrovic for the win. Let's get it.
Shows
The-
us with 4
The
goals,
Serbian
makes it
Superman for the win. Let's go. Let's get it.
Oh goodness. All right, bring us home, Stevie. Last 3.
Villa hosted West Ham. I'm sorry, that got me a little bit good.
What the
I got a
Serbian,
lie.
the Serbian Superman?
Yeah, I have no idea what made me laugh. It just did.
I have a lot of draws this week. I'm taking this as a draw as well.
I think West Ham finally got their points here. West Ham win. I think they need a goal. I think they score a goal, and a couple of goals for that matter. I think they walk away with a dub here.
It kind of reminds me of Man U last week where they desperately need points, and it almost
Yeah.
feels like I don't want to say destined to get them, but like, but Villa's just as bad. They need points too. All right, this one's tough. I'm a cop out. Give me the draw.
Draw it is.
They both get them.
Points for everybody.
Points for everybody. Wolves versus Newcastle. Gotta go Newcastle, but Wolves need them too. I'm going Newcastle win. They're too
Yeah,
good.
I'm with you, Steve. I mean, anytime you draw and you score 3 goals against Manchester City, I'm taking you following week just out of pure fucking appreciation.
I'm taking a draw here.
There you go.
Smart man.
I'm gonna draw.
Sure went
Lion,
Wolves,
not
man.
sheep.
Hero, man. All right, last game of the weekend. Forest hosting the Spurs. Forest on the back of a couple good results for them, a win and a draw recently. Spurs obviously, they did
Go
their
on.
thing.
Look,
Spurs win. I didn't say it.
Spurs win. Spurs have to spur eventually. That's
They
a thing.
That they
you know what I
do.
mean? And
I
if
think
it's going to
there's-
happen to be against a newly promoted side who's playing well, I'm look. Do I give Forest only like a 30% chance? Yeah, probably. But I'm taking them in this one.
I don't know.
Give me the 30.
Watching Forest play, they looked better this past week versus Everton, but I also don't know if that was because they were playing Everton.
Everton.
But watching their other games, they very much just bamboozled their way into getting goals. It wasn't like I want to be honest, like really worked anything too well. I think they're going to get exposed pretty badly by Spurs here. I think this is going to be a beatdown for Spurs. And to your point, Vito, where they're going to actually start spurring, it's obviously the Champions League. That is not Conte's forte. They're going to just crash out of the Champions Leagues. So, which a draw we find out later this week. So that'll be exciting.
Yep.
Understandable. Actually, going back over the odds, I just took a quick look at FanDuel real quick. The Brighton Leeds game, they actually have Brighton as minus 115 favorites. Leeds plus 310. I kind of mentioned look at right there where the sports books are at. Liverpool minus 900 favorites. Shocking, but also not shocking the way they've been playing. Any of the big ones that we kind of had 50-50 thoughts on?
Yeah.
Not really too much, right?
No.
Wolves Newcastle. They consider it extremely open. Plus 175 Wolves, plus 220 draw, plus 165 Newcastle. So I think that one's gonna be. Newcastle win looks very good right there. Just some interesting ones to kind of toss at you. Same thing with West Ham Villa. They think that one's pretty open as well, almost like the same exact odds across the board. And then they have Forest as plus 600 underdogs against Tottenham.
Put your money on Forest. That's all I'm saying.
Plus
Don't
600
do it.
looks
Don't.
good.
No, I will not. No, don't do it. Don't do it.
we do not condone gambling nor give gambling advice that's actually good.
No, but we appreciate it.
Yes, and it will be given regardless on Twitter because I'm definitely putting a $10 parlay in again just for shits and gigs. Anything else, fellas?
That's it for me, man.
Excited for the Champions League draw this week.
What day is that? Tuesday?
Thursday. Today's Tuesday.
Oh, it's always Thursday. It's been a long week.
Yeah, we feel that. That'll do it for this episode of the Sunday League Streamers podcast. Like, comment, hit the bell, subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you find your podcast. Also follow us on Twitter at the SL Screamers_pod for daily tweets about the show, the world football, United States men's national team, and the Premier League. I'm your host, Steve, with Mike and Vito, signing off.